Hello. Today we're going to continue learning about Microsoft Access. Today we're going to be focusing on reports. So let's get started. We already have the table that we've been working on. We are going to select the table to show that that's the information we want to use to create our report. You may open it, but you don't need to. I'm going to go ahead and leave mine closed, but it is selected. Then I'm going to go to this Create tab on the ribbon, and you'll see the different objects that we're going to be using in Access: tables, queries, forms, and reports. Today we're focusing on reports. There are a number of buttons you can click here to create a report. If you do not know what you're doing, the report wizard is a step-by-step process that will help create a report for you. If you're a little more familiar with reports, you may click on report or report design to jump straight into it. I'm going to click on Report Wizard. As we're doing this, it may be interesting to know that a report is intended to be printed out. So if you want to print out your data on paper, report is the tool you will want to use. So on this first step, it's asking you what table or query we want to use the information to build a report from. And notice that it's already selected our table because we had selected it over here. And now it's asking us what fields we would like to include on a report. You do not need to include every field on every report. I'm going to start with book title, followed by author and genre. We're going to skip ID and year and move on to the next step. Here it's asking us how we want to group the information. Do you want it on the same line? Do you want to subordinate some information to others? I'm going to leave it the way it is. On this step, it's asking how you want to order your information. You can sort it by any of your categories. I'm going to sort it alphabetically by our author, as a library might. On this step, it asks you how you would like it to lay out your report. These all look subtly different. It's the same information, but you can play with these on your own to get a sense of how the report looks. I'm going to leave it at its default, and I like portrait because that's how we tend to do most reports. Finally, what do you want to title your report? Here you're going to name your report. I'm going to put Newbery Books. And because this is a report, we're going to end with a capital R. That's going to be our naming convention for Access objects, so we know if we're dealing with a table, report, form, or query. And finally, now that we're finished, do we want to preview it or do we want to modify it? Let's start by previewing it and click Finish. And then it shows us our report. So it's taken the information from our database. It's laid it out nicely for an 8.5 by 11 size piece of paper. And if we like it, we're good to go. You can scroll down and see what the pages are going to look like. Or if you would like, you can actually get into the design mode to take a look at it. Unlike our table view that had two different views, reports have 4 different views you can see here. There's a report view, which is good for editing. There is a print preview where you can see what it would look like if you printed it out on paper, kind of where the margins are. You have a layout view, which gives you some kind of general editing process. And then if you wanted to get into specific editing, you could go into design view. Design view lets you take a look at the specific elements, change the font, change the spacing, change the background colors. And there's a lot going on here. This relates directly to this. For example, up here in the header space, you can see we've got a blue background. We've got a title that doesn't quite look what we would want to see at the top of a document. So I'm going to go into design view and let's change this. First of all, let's maybe give it a new title. Let's call it award-winning Newbery Books. And maybe we like the headline, maybe we like the font, maybe we want to change it. So I'm going to right click on that. I'm going to open up our properties. That's going to open up this window here over on the side. And there's a ton of properties that you can see that we have the ability to adjust. So if I wanted to change the font, I would select the text block. I would go down to where my font is, and I would pick a different font. Maybe I want Arial Bold. If I want to change the font color, you can see that that is here too. There we go, font color. By the way, I've got two different buttons here. One if I want to pick my own color manually, one if I want to go in with kind of theme colors, highlight color, so on. Let's pick something. How about black? And if I want to select the background, I'll just click on the background and it gives me the properties for the background. And let's change that to, I don't know, how about yellow? And anytime you make a change, you can feel free to return to your page preview mode so you can see the change it made. Wow, I made this a little bit bigger and it cut off on the text block. So we'd obviously want to go back and give a little more space to the text block so it doesn't cut off my title. I can also change what's going on with the headers and the details of my database data. So obviously I've got your headers here, and then you've got your actual entries down here alternating with white and gray. Of course, all of that you can change in the design view. So if you wanted to change your alternate color, you could do that. You'd click your background, and here's our background color. Here's our alternate color. So let's change our alternate color. Let's stay in the yellow family. That might be interesting. See how that looks. Oh, I kind of like that. So yeah, there's a lot you can change here. There's a lot going on these property sheets. And honestly, you're going to probably want to have a little bit of experimentation with them to see how it works. If you want to give something a little more space or a little bit less, you can always come into these fields and let's give a little less space to the author's name, maybe a little more space to the book title. I know some of these books have kind of long titles. Probably should have taken the space from genre instead. And I like to keep going back and forth to see what effect my change made. Yeah, that looks like it fits a little bit nicer. So when you're done, obviously you're going to save your work. But this is reports in Microsoft Access. You'll see that over on the left here where it's showing all of your objects, that will appear where your other objects do too. You can have as many or as few reports as you want. On a follow-up lesson, we're going to talk about a specialty report for labels. But for now, this is a general introduction to reports in Microsoft Access.